Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Samuel Lombardo, the Executive Director, CEO, Visionary, and Agent of SL Models and Talent Agency, LLC. And I am excited to bring to you today the initial launch. This is actually going to be our initial launch of the new Fresh Fates virtual live open call. I will explain a little bit about that, and we are actually just about done with our glitch ceremony, where we will be doing landing pages and that for our Spring Fling extravaganza, as well as Kids Showcase extravaganza, which will be really taking place during the summer months, and we will be winding down in the fall. So I'm so excited for that. You can follow us at www.slmta-agency.com. If you hadn't subscribed yet, or at least did a following, you could do so. We have some great events coming up. We're going to be having a virtual music a virtual music festival, so to speak, that will be happening for 3 days. We'll be explaining about that a little bit tonight as well. There's a lot going on, so I want to make sure that I do everything in chronological order so that there is no confusion. So I'm so excited for every one of you. We will let you know what we are looking for as far as experienced models and what we are looking for as far as non-experienced models and or talent. Also, if you are interested in becoming part of the SLMTA community, you can do so at www.patreon.com/SLMTA for as low as $5 a month to start. And we do have a few people who have actually taken advantage of that. You actually get some VIP as well with various, now there's going to be some discussions I will be talking about tonight revolving around that topic. But we're also going to be doing some trivia shows. So we are really, as a matter of fact, I'm kind of wearing myself thin. There is no more room for me to do anything else. Everything is pretty much where it needs to be. And SLMTA is even starting to book for next year. Yes, we are booking for next year. We do have our big event coming up with, because I know I didn't bring this up for a long time, and that's because of a few things. One of the things is the name of the event is the Live Red Carpet Masquerade Ball and awards or expo party. It's basically going to be filled with showcases, exposition, award ceremony, workshops, and it's going to end with a masquerade ball and a huge award ceremony. It's probably going to be some of the biggest awards that you might have heard outside of like other entertainment related awards that would be out there. So it is definitely taking place on Sunday, August 14th, 2022. So we will be making the changes on that flyer because there has been some questions about it. It will be changed again. That date will be changed. The date was changed because of vendors as well as CDC guidelines and what we are preparing. So yeah, so there's that. If you are a singer and you're trying to get into art prize or what have you, let me know because they are actually taking submissions for artists, but I have no control over that. I'm only saying it because I am an agency, and this particular festival is happening literally in downtown Grand Rapids where it always happens. So um the whole entire city is turned into, for like 21 days, into a whole city of art, music, performance, etc. And that would be a chance that if you want to network, that's when you want to actually be there to do some networking, especially coming out of a pandemic. They have their own requirements, but I'm not going to sit here and explain all of them to you. I will give you a link and then you can decide from there, because they have their own thing. Like I said, I don't have any affiliation with me. We can sign artists into it because it's within that period, but we are not a vendor to them, if that makes sense. Okay, I hope that I made myself very clear with that one, but they are looking for artists. So this would be your time to shine, for sure, for sure. Okay. What other announcements do I need to do? I want to do some dry cleaning, or not dry cleaning, uh closet cleaning announcements, and hopefully this won't take too long. And that is that SL Models and Talent Agency LLC is going to begin a landing page for our Community Stars program, and that is where new models will actually be able to sign up. Now, with that being said, anything to do with tuition, anything to do with all that is going to happen on that page. It will, I'm not going to tell you what the web page is. I don't need anyone, of course, it's going to try to take that, now that I mentioned it loud enough already. Okay, basically, I'm going to be developing a landing page, and that's all that you basically need to know right now. But the purpose, let me explain the purpose behind it. I don't want it to be confused with YSL Models and Talent Agency booking. Okay. The only thing that I will strongly urge is that if you are a dreamer and you signed a contract and you have no experience, we may suggest to you that I may end up suggesting to you what needs to actually be done. Okay, there's a lot of stuff going on here. I'm on a live right now, please. I will not be answering messages for a while. This is our interactive show, by the way, that I'm on here. Tonight it's going to be a couple of hours. It's not going to be 3 hours like I normally am doing my interactive show. This is going to be a couple of hours, but you know, I say one thing and it ends up being another anyway. It always happens. That's the artist within us, right? No pun intended. Unleash the artist within, you know, that's our slogan. Okay, so anyway, let me try to do this to explain it a little bit more easier context. All right. Once the landing page is set up, you will know what it is. There, all the account payables, receivables, everything will happen. Okay, we have to do it that way because our education program would be separate. That doesn't mean that you are separate from the agency, because you're still going to be, it's still SLMTA related, but we do not want families, you know, with the kids, and we don't want adults assuming that when they spending this kind of when they're spending money and this and that, that they are obligated to something that is not going to happen during the time that they're in training, because I want to explain what the community stars is, because this is a very, very important topic. Community stars has two phases to it. It has the audition readiness program and it has the performance readiness program. During the audition readiness program, you are basically researching and networking the probabilities and possibilities, okay, of booking yourself to audition. So it is actually required that you do audition, okay, and then we get a score on that. Now, it's not going to happen. It's unfair to do that. So we cannot have you doing auditions at SL Models and Talent Agency. So you would have to do them with prospective clients. And we will explain to you how that process will go. Performance readiness is where you would be doing what they call showcases. Okay. Showcasing is where after you've already, you're learning the process of the industry of that particular style. Like if you're a model, you're going to be auditioning anything relevant to modeling. Okay. Then anything related to modeling, you would be doing showcases for. All right. So when we say that it's based off of your schedule, we are talking about only Zoom coach calls only. We are not talking about all of the other classes, like your seminars, your workshops, and all of that that's included. They are doing set times, and what we will do is we will put the set times there, but it's required that you take them in order for graduation to happen. In other words, it's not an option, because all of this fits into your actual education package. It's all inclusive. Okay. So anything relevant to auditioning and getting you in front of clients is what the audition readiness program is about. Okay. And anything to do with showcasing or going to conventions, that is where performance readiness comes about. And what we hope is that by the time you are done the convention, you would then be signing with us as an actual experienced model and or talent, that you would be verified with us, okay? Now, our niche is to help you survive from a pandemic at a lower rate of education, so that you can use your backup money or your backup degree on something that would be more relevant to your life, so that you're not spending college degree on knowing how to dance or act or model or whatever. And we are, there are a few sponsors out there that we are getting to head up the actual sponsorship program for our tuition aid grant. So you'll be seeing information about that as well, because that's going to be the main part of this packaging as well, is that we will be providing grants. The biggest grant will be about 50% of your tuition. Okay. But everything is included. MAAI is included. We just have to figure out what's happening with that when that time comes. But as far as the inclusion is concerned, like it being included, it's included. Your portfolio photos and everything is included. You do not have to we're not going to ask you to go out there and go find yourself another photographer to go and take more photos or things like that. And in fact, what our goal really is that you will have all of this stuff plus some, and maybe even a booking or two. I'm not going to say that everything is possible, but I cannot guarantee you that you're going to get a booking, because the Community Stars program is taking 4 years of college and putting it into one. Let me just put it that way. And so we have the most beneficial people. Some actually are doing it pro bono. Some are doing it for a lot less than what it's needed. Because again, you guys are only paying $6,500 for the whole year, which means I have a whole year per person, except for music. Music, it's a different price, and you actually have quarterly fees as well, because you're dealing with private coaching. Like if you're looking for a voice person, or if you're looking for a piano coach or whatever, they have their own things. But as far as the majority, it's the 6,500. And that's what we have to play around with for the year. So we're not expecting to sit here and focus on one thing that's going to be taking up all the money. While at the same time, we don't want to go too cheap with a person and what they're doing either. Okay. So we're kind of in the middle of the ground, so to speak, as to how we are doing this. And so when it comes to the coaching, when it comes to the Zoom call meetings, on a weekly basis, that's one thing. But you could be doing boot camps. You may end up doing workshops, okay? You're going to end up doing conventions and showcases. You're going to be doing a lot of work. You're going to have to memorize, if you're an actor, you're going to have to memorize monologues. If you're a musician, we may be asking you, well, it depends. If you want to do cover, then we have to talk about what you need to do covers. You would have to have at the bare minimum 3 to 4 songs available by the end of the whole entire program. Even if it is just recorded on a like Audacity or some kind of program, okay? The idea is that we are going to develop you during the program to get you ready to actually be sent out. And then that would also include our some marketing. We're actually going to include your first year of some social media marketing, campaigning, and we're also going to be sending some email alerts out, and we would like to put you in a voting poll so where you can have your friends, your sponsors, those who support you, and get you developed into like a following, so that your Instagram, your Facebook, all that stuff is accurate. So there's a lot of career center stuff involved in this as well. So you're not just paying to sit there and listen to me. In fact, I have nothing to do with it. You're hearing me now. You're going to be paying for real people in the industry to actually tell you like it is what it's all about, and how you can survive, and even a couple of things of what to look out for. So that's what that is. Now, through your auditions, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not going to say yay or nay. I would not be surprised if some of you actually do end up getting a booking, but the purpose of the Community Stars is not about the booking. It's about actually getting your name out there, finding your niche, knowing who you are, developing you into the prospect of the person that you want to be, so that we can get you out there to the right clients, okay? Because every place has a different niche. Every location is different in the way that they are, like models, for example. There are different things that different clients are looking for. So you have to know, we're going to help you figure out where you fit, okay? Because again, you could be And this is another thing that I want to bring to your attention. SL Models and Talent Agency will not entertain liars. We just will not. Okay. What do I mean by that? Like, if you're 6 foot and you're looking for 5'9", you're not going to rely on an application saying that you're 5'9", because they will actually, especially now, they will actually size you up. It's part of the requirement of what they do anyway, especially if they're going to fit you when you're actually doing like high fashion type of stuff. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're going to be fitting exactly what you're saying it is. So if you're saying you're 6 foot and then you're actually 5'9", I mean, you're the one that like caused that issue. So what we normally do, what we try to do is we actually send you to a face-to-face consultation on modeling. It's like your orientation is what we really call it. And we pay the person that does that for the 15 minutes or whatever long it may be. And their job, all they basically will be doing is taking your sizes and making sure that everything is exactly what you would be saying on paper. In other words, it's what we call a model audit, okay? To make sure that you are exactly what you're saying that you are. Like, oh no, I'm not 300 pounds, I'm just 290. Well, we're gonna find out, okay, with the different size measures that they have and what the fat index is and things like that. That way, then we will know exactly where you fit, because you can look like you're petite and try to try to get someone to throw pictures up that look like one thing, but we need to know everything about the physique of the model, not just getting it by word. So do not be afraid. It's not anything extra that you'd have to do as far as payment is concerned. It is for us to be sure that what you're providing us, so that there's nothing that's been changed or anything like that. In other words, we need to get the sizes. You could even do it, but what we need is the form with their signature showing that they have actually did the sizing. And the phone number to the store that did it, because we want to communicate and make sure that you were there. I mean, yes, we have to do this, because SLMTA is national, and we don't want to just be throwing up just any model to anywhere, and it's actually just a fluke, okay? So you're gonna have to do the work. All right, so that's what Community Stars program is. So it's teaching you what it's gonna really be like if you wanna do the work, and this is what it is. And then you're going to get some of the benefits of it, and you might actually end up coming out with a booking. You may, because I mean, you figure the requirement is a minimum of 3 90% or better, which is audited by the client that does the actual audition. I will be giving them the survey. They will give me the feedback. And that's how that would all work. And then if they're like, oh yeah, I remember so-and-so, is that person still available? And I could say yes or no. And if it's happening during that time, you may actually already have some exposure there. The goal is to have the exposure to begin with. Everything that you will be doing will be live as well. So even when you're doing, say, a live Zoom call, everything is recorded. That's right. So if you're afraid to work for the agency and not be recorded, then we could talk about that later for those who are actually wanting to work with the agency. But it is recorded. And on the other side of the recording are going to be agents / clients who are going to be like seeing who the next face is. I'm even sending invitations to clients. So watch this new face. This new face open call coming up, or the fresh face is what I should be saying. I'm so excited. Even the extravaganza is happening. It is going to become so real that I'm just going to be excited that once it's actually launched, you're going to be like, oh my God, like I couldn't believe that it's so sophisticated. Oh yeah, like I can literally update clients to actually go in and actually see who's been submitted, and based off of their remarks would let me know a little bit of where that person may be heading in the frame of the actual competition, because it's going to be about their following, who supports them, etc. That's going to give them the votes. So there's going to be a lot of voting. You will be able to vote online. You will be able to vote via texting. You'll be able to vote via a poll system. We have a lot of stuff. That's why I said, and there was a couple of glitches in there, and I think we're kind of finalizing some of this stuff now. Plus, I was also waiting for a flyer. Our Spring Fling extravaganza flyer is almost done. We will have that done probably by tomorrow afternoon. But that flyer is almost done so that you can get the true knowledge of what's actually happening with that. But it does include a $5,000 package for the top winner. It does. Yes, it does. Free convention. A very, very awesome ordeal. Is there a cost to the submission for you to submit? Yes, there is a little bit of an investment. Right now, actually, for early submission, which we kind of have a list of a whole of a few hundred or so. For early submission, so it'll be 100. After, I think it's like May 21st-ish, it will be the regular, which is 150 per submission. Now, let me also bring this to a halt. Okay, the submission, as far as the cost is concerned, it is a one-time non-refundable submission. Okay, so if you're called back in, or you're traveling to us to do any live events till the number is knocked down, then that will all be on us in the duration of that. Okay, so in other words, make sure that you read the descriptions of the photo release, the guidelines of everything as well, because you will be shown live. People will be voting for you. You're not going to be hiding. It's going to be a lot of exposure. And it's even going to get bigger once we find out the top 100. Okay, now the top 100, you may actually have a chance of actually signing a contract with SL Models and Talent Agency. We would probably have to see where you fit as far as experience or non-experience. But for the most part, this is a way to be involved with an agency without being involved with an agency, if that makes sense. In other words, if you are someone that is experienced and you're submitting, you can submit for the purpose of being a freelancer, and then we could talk about how you could be represented as the professional as far as being booked through SL models and talent agency. If that is a concern for some of you that are out there. But as far as I know, that's only 1% of the questions that I've gotten. So not many people have been questioning me in regards to that piece of it. Let me see. Okay, hold on. Okay, there we go. Had to change something. Okay. So it's a little bit, let me explain how the contest is going to work, okay? First of all, there are 3 age groups with the Spring Fling Extravaganza. It is both for male and female, okay? You can be fitness, you don't have to be fitness. It is exactly what it, well, there are specific requirements within the categories for male versus female, but the age groups are the young adults who are 18 to 25, okay? And then we have 26 to 65, which are what we call in this day and age, the trend setters, okay? And then we have some of the seniors that they have the plus up and they're still able to do it. That's like 66 and above, 66 plus. Okay, so anyone is allowed to join in, and there is a top winner, okay, for each of the categories within the age. The one that actually gets the $5,000 package, however, is going to end up being the top, which we call the Universal King and Queen. So there's a lot of money that is being sponsored or given out in that. So when we say the $5,000 package, I'm going to tell you right now what it actually includes. All right. So the prize packet includes the fashion spread, makeup and hair makeover, SLMTA feature bonus, portfolio photo shoot, the virtual exposure to top agents, SLMTA representation, and more. So there is a lot going on. Now we will have, this is season 1 of this particular contest. We will have the top female model, the top female style, and then the top sexy female. Okay. Then we're going to have the top male model, the top male style, and the top sexy male. And then we will have the universal queen and the universal king, and then our universal model. This is going to run through May 1st, 2021 through July 15th, 2021 for submission. Okay. So this is your chance to shine for real. All right. Let us do the rest of the work. Do not worry about, like, especially if you're international and you're seeing that. So not worry about like, oh, how am I going to do this? Or where am I going to do that? And this and that. What we will probably end up doing, well, first of all, the package itself will actually be air delivered to you, because there is some money in there, and then there's also other gifts and etc. Okay, but but it would be air delivered to you. Now, if it came to the point of how things were going to work for you in regards to your representation or whatnot, don't let that hinder you, because we are now developing connections on an international level with international agencies. So that is going to take care of a lot of that problem when that time comes. What you need to focus on is making sure that the submission is applied correctly and appropriately. We will not accept nudes. So if you're one of those that are trying to do Playboy or whatever, I don't know how you want to say this. That would be the wrong way of saying it, because not every Playboy scenario is nude. But what I'm getting at is, we will not accept nude. We will not accept filters. We will not accept lingerie. This is for you to show us that you can be an actual model, okay? That you have the actual like pretty face, and that the next extravagant model that can be added to the roster of models. Okay, there was no other way of putting that one. We will have a landing page for the submission as well. It's going to be decorated in its own way, kind of following this suit of the contest and the flyer. So this will not be confused. What you will most likely end up seeing on our website is a lot of what you're seeing right now, just minus a few pages again. Now the kids showdown is split into 3 age groups: 4 to 7, 8 to 12, and 13 to 17. Yes, we will need parent guidance for those who are wanting their kids to join. It is the same pricing, except that it's going to be different as far as the awards and the things go in regards to that. Each one is going to have the same information that I've already applied to. To be more specific, now, if you are in Michigan area doing this contest, we do have a licensed makeup and hair makeover individual that will be able to help you with that. And his name is Eric. And we, when we get the top prize given out, we will be taking care of that for you if you happen to be the winner on that. So you wouldn't have to worry about those appointments. But your submission is 3 photos and an introduction video. The introduction video cannot be any more than 90 seconds. We grade everything. You could submit it, but if the system sees more than what's supposed to happen, you could end up being flagged and then the submission would not go through. So make sure that that you're following the guidelines of the submission. Also understand that you are held responsible for any copyright issues if you are lying on the application, and that there could be some actual termination and other audits that could happen if you are found guilty of copyright and or fraud with these applications. Okay, so be sure that you are being very honest, very transparent, that that you're following the guidelines of that actual thing. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth here, moving to another level here. Okay. Just make sure that you're following the guidelines of what is happening with what is being requested from you on the submission. Technically, you also want to make sure that you have no more than 200, I'd say 150, but it does allow you up to 200 words. It counts by words, not characters, for your bio. So you want to make sure that you're going to just, when you're typing, that you're saying it straightforward and to the point, because that's all you have time for. Okay. What else? There will be a photo release. You would have to do that. There's a couple reasons why you want to do that, because for the few of you that actually may be reaching the top 20, we're going to be putting you on the showcase, virtual showcase on MAAI's website. And they're going to need a photo release as well. So we are taking a photo release because we got to send you off, but they're going to need a photo release. So if you want the exposure of the clientele and national agencies of MAAI for the virtual, for their virtual showcase. You want to know who they are, you can just go to maai.org and that would be their website. And you would be able to see some of their showcase actually being featured live right on the home page. All right. So you will not have to do anything more to submit, pay, or anything else after your obligations of what's happening there. The only thing that you would basically have to do, the only other thing that you would basically have to do at this point is to make sure that that you have all the appropriate forms. Parent, guardian, you would have to sign for the kids as well. There is going to be proof of ages that we would need, certain specific things. Okay. So there is that. Also, SLMTA is making changes because this year we do see a very, very good boom. We do see that there is a breakthrough about to happen. And it's just a matter of time. We are waiting for specific things that was already approved, that we're just waiting for things to happen with SLMTA, because that is only going to help strengthen the things that we are already doing. But I want to kind of go in chronological order about what is happening so that you can see how busy a one-man show has been for the past 3 months into the year. And yet I still had to clear up two things that had glitches and still be able to make it on time. All right. So the first thing that we have that is happening is our Spring Fling extravaganza, which was it was supposed to have happened back in March. It was supposed to be like a March, April, May thing. So that part wouldn't have been on time, but I had to move it up for the purpose of the system that we were working with. In fact, the first system we did, we actually just dropped it because it was just nothing but one thing after another, and it was not doing what we wanted it to do. So that wasn't going to work. So there's that. So Spring Fling extravaganza and the Kids Showcase extravaganza is happening May 1st through July 15th. There is early registration where you can do early submission. It's up till May 21st and save $50 on the submission cost. Okay, so there is that part. In between all that happening, while that's happening, and I just continue to advertise it along the way, we're going to be doing some trivia games and bingos and things like that. Some of that stuff was already happening. It was good, not good. It just really depends. So that is to help build the money up for our tuition aid grant for the scholarship program. It's what our Community Stars program. That's why we are doing that. Then with that, we have a contest actually going for singers and actors that are being formed. I hadn't even talked about this, but this is going to be for the summertime and will be ended around Christmas. This is not the same as the festival, in case if you're wondering. This is an actual contest, but I needed to get one of them up. So the singer and the actors contest is coming up, but that one is going to be starting when the other one ends. Okay. While we will be doing the countdown through the fall, the other one is going to end up kind of clashing together with this one. So it's going to be very, very, very interesting. I think what we're going to start doing, and that might be the case in how this ends up being, the singer contest, singer acting contest will probably end up becoming a next year countdown. And then we're going to bring it back in the summer and then do it again in the countdown. Why? Because we need the months for the votes and the support to come in. And then we need the time to be able to make sure that everything's tallied up. And then we're going to get you set up and prepared and ready. Okay, so that you can go ahead and continue to perform, because how these contests work, it's almost like a mini American Idol, not the same thing, but just it's set up in that same type of category. Okay, so in other words, we're going to start with the top 100 that we choose to just basically show off live. Okay, and we may be breaking different pieces of it up to show audience. And then the next night, we would actually say who made it into. There will be a host explaining who actually made it into the next segment. And then that would be the top 50. At that point, by the time the end of that night happens and you're seeing everybody doing their thing for the top 100, we're getting the votes in from text messaging as well as video polls. Once all that is calculated, we then end up, at this point, that system is set up on a more sophisticated than what we already have, because that's going to tell us exactly in real time how many votes were for whom. Okay, and then we're not going to tell you who got the votes until the next evening. And then that's when we would actually state all the names to the next segment. And that's who you would actually see performing and submitting again for the next week. And then it'll go that way until the top 5, the top 3, and then the top 1. All right, that's how that's going to work. And then from there, after we do the top 1 of those categories, then we're going to find out who the Universal King, Universal Queen, and Universal Model is. That is how this is envisioned to go. It's going to be the same way with the actors and singers contest as well, except there are actually going to be 4 contests in one. They're going to be split up with the same age bracket. So it'll be the kids showdown, and there's going to be the adult version of it. But then for actors, it's even going to be even more sophisticated, because it's going to be children monologues versus female monologues versus adult. You see what I'm getting at? So you want to make sure that you have the right submission. While each week, each thing is happening, you're going to be working with a mentor to actually get you prepared for the next submission. And then between you and that mentor, you will be able to continue the submissions as long as you continue on the program. Otherwise, it would just end, you know? And depending on where you're at, you will get that exposure because we are already inviting audience. You don't know who's going to be in the audience. You don't know if it's going to be a film producer, a singer, actor, a producer, a film producer, I should say. You don't know, you know, agencies. So all you really are going to know is those scenarios. And what I'm going to do is give you a little worksheet. The worksheet is going to give you FYIs, not anything that you have to remember, but something that you should. The FYIs are basically saying, like, be careful if things are like that. It's not going to say it in that way. It's going to sound a lot more professional, but basically it's going to say, be careful if things look like this. So they're looking like that. If you need us to help you figure those contracts out, whatever, you know, kind of thing. That's what we're going to have in the actual worksheet when you do your original submission. Why? Because there's going to be a lot of, we don't know, because of it being so open, how many people are actually going to try to get you somewhere else. You understand what I'm getting at? And then they are pretty much what we're trying to do. This contest is to open up to freelancers, especially, or newbies, an opportunity to be represented without being represented, if that makes sense. So we don't want to have issues where we got agencies trying to convince you to do something else that doesn't make sense. So what is happening here? And by the way, that shows on the agency participation form for any agency that would say, yes, we would be interested in participating in our local community. Because we do have agencies that have replied back. So we, you know, they are very happy. They like what this is. And I think they're even going to like it better once they actually see the productivity of what I've basically done. Because this is set up very, very, very well. Very well. Normally, I would be going out asking businesses if they could sponsor this and then actually go ahead and partner with that business in actually doing that. That might be the case for a singing and acting competition, because I know someone that I might be able to ask about that, because they're good with graphic designs and things anyway. So if they have a system where there's a partnership or collaboration, an actual collaboration. Now, when I say collaboration, because I think some of us are still confused with that word. I don't think so a lot of us are confused on many things, but I have to say this because it's been happening with some of my meetings. Collaboration is not about just being beneficial to one person. It is about how everybody involved, how this could be beneficial to everybody involved. So for example, it's one thing to say, I'm hiring someone to do this and you're going to get paid this, right? It's a whole nother thing to say, and I'm just using it as an example. That's another thing that this is a pet peeve. This is a pet peeve for me. Meanings of words. Okay. The word example. Okay. When I say for example, and I'm pretty sure if you've studied English 101, you know what I'm talking about. The sample is more about what is happening. In other words, something you're doing that you're sampling. You could say, here's a sample of what it is, right? Because you're doing it. It's like a chef saying, okay, here's a sample of this new steak that I've cooked. See if you like it. He's not going to say, here's an example of some steak that I made. Do you see how weird that would sound? So when you're saying something that you're actually doing, you are sampling to them. You are not giving an example. An example is something that you would use for an analogy to create what it is that you're trying to say. Okay, so like for an example, I'm going to say it that way. There has been some confusions about collaboration where it's like, I want to do this, so I could do this, I could do that, I could do the other thing, blah, 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 right? And then when it boils down to me saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Oh, that's another thing too. It really irks me. But I do understand that the newbies in the business, and yes, I do mean newbies in the business, because it's one thing that you understand the performing part of the business, a whole nother thing to know about the arts administrative side of things, right? And that's where people get into trouble, like you got to know like licenses, you got to know about, well, here's a good one, the top one. You got to know how to negotiate. What does it mean to negotiate? I will have some people tell me, oh, just give me a number. Well, how do I know like the difference between this, or that if you're not telling me something? See, that's the stupidity even with the government today. Because you'll have one there with $3 trillion and you have another one there with 800 billion. And then they're like, no, I'm not going to do that. And they throw the 800 billion thing away. But then they're like, oh, well, I'll figure it out anyway. Well, why is that? Because in that case, they can do that, right? Well, sometimes this isn't the case when it comes business to business. I can tell you this for a real good example, okay? A real example of this is if I was to say, sign here, you're going to be a model, you're going to start the Community Stars program. You go down the street and you see Peter, and Peter says, yeah, I run this agency. But then because I'm asking for this, for you to get the training, you're thinking Peter has a better deal, but by the time you get done with Peter, you find out that you literally paid more. Now you wasted money, but you don't still have the stuff that you were supposed to have to begin with. Oh, that really ticks me off. Because I do get some models that talk to me, and it's like they're afraid to do anything with me because they already got robbed like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 and didn't get anything in return. They're not even talking about bookings. They're actually talking about, like, I talked with one person and they said, oh yeah, they took my pictures. I don't even own them. Really? I mean, that's not what we do. I mean, am I saying that we're cheap? No, I'm not going to say that we're cheap. I mean, now for some of you that may be working for us, it might sound like we we are cheap, like getting off the ground. I'm not gonna lie there. Like I said, I'm very transparent. Maybe sometimes I'm too good for my own truth. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I might be cheap, but in the way that I'm paying, but I'm very, very transparent. Let me tell you about the rule of thumb. We know this thing about it takes money to make money. And you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with entertainment industry words of encouragement? It has a lot, because if you actually follow what I'm listening, or if you actually follow to what you're listening to from what I'm saying, you're going to actually start realizing what it is that I'm doing. If you start off on the low end, especially since we're at a halt, does not mean, oh, the world is open again. Let's just go ahead and start charging thousands of dollars again, right? It doesn't technically mean that. Now, that's a little bit controversial to the fact that it's $6,500 for the tuition aid, for the, not tuition aid, but for the tuition for a Community Stars program. However, a lot of that could literally be proven to us. We would know from the tuition aid grant application how much more real, actual poverty is still out there that would need the help. Because if it's not for the sponsor, the tuition aid grant wouldn't even exist. It wouldn't even make sense, right? So while it may sound like, oh, it's $6,500, there's no way I could be able to do that. The reality is that we have so many different programs that will actually help you sum up that money a little bit better, you know, than you stressing out how to get 6,500. All right, that's number one. Number two, you always want to make sure that when you are, don't sell yourself short, but also don't overexert yourself. What do I mean by that? When you're negotiating, usually the business is going to go low. They want to see how far low they can go. So you may want to go in there with a kind of cynical price line. Like, for example, what the difference is between a live performance and a recorded performance, okay? And actually know where the middle ground is. There's actually, believe it or not, while there is value in it, we don't know how to calculate something that just started last year because of the pandemic. Would you not agree? So what happens is we have to kind of work with it. We gotta tweak numbers and things like that. So it's one thing to say, okay, you know, we'll go low and high. No, what's supposed to happen with a negotiation is the business is going to figure out who is going to be the best people to do whatever. And in fact, from conversations that I had in this past week, I have learned that SLMTA is going to start doing something different. We are actually going to start opening bids. Yes, we're going to do contract bids. No, there's nothing against the law that says that, but this is going to help us figure out who would be worth doing what, and who not who is worth doing what. Actually, this is going to help us figure out who is closer to what the agency is actually going to be able to pay in the real sense, rather than it being that I'm sitting there, because some folks, like negotiation, there's no meaning to it. So I honestly think that for some new people out there in this industry that are trying to learn the agency field, they must understand how to actually negotiate. If you need a coaching session on that, I'll be glad to do it if you're willing to want to turn around and actually compensate me. Ooh, that's something interesting. Yeah, I mean, some folks, I don't know what it is. No, I know exactly what it is. You know what? I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. There are some folks out there, these are the two main things that I know of what it is. One, they're still trying to figure out how I even got started at agency and why I'm even how it is I even starting modeling if I've never been in the modeling career. So there's still, they don't even have that in their mind. They're just like, oh, like, what is this, right? And then it goes into like seriousness and all that. That's the truth of the matter. That's not a judgmental excuse. That's actually what I'm seeing, because it's a lot of what is being said, even if it's implied, because I could read implied main ideas. It's college 101 reading skill. Okay, so anyway, or in other words, you might call it reading between the lines. I call it implied main ideas, okay, where they're like all over the place, so to speak. And then you're actually, and I even do that. Sometimes I won't even say anything. It'll just be like 45 minutes of everything and all things. No. Anyway, so there's that. So yeah, sometimes that could make me look a little bit weird in that perspective. And then the other perspective of this whole thing is some will say one thing but actually mean another. What do I mean by this? Well, let me give you an example of what I mean. So let's say that I can coach you on how to negotiate, right? We'll just say that. That's going to be the example. I can coach you on how to negotiate. But then we could be talking for an hour and then you're trying to prove how I don't know how to negotiate. But then by the time I'm done 15 minutes later, I would turn around and tell you how this wasn't even a negotiation from the get-go. That's what I mean by someone, I call it passive aggressive is what I call it. This is where it's like, well, I don't want to be rude. I don't want to sound like I know it all, but in a roundabout way, in an implied way, you kind of do know it all. But then I had to circle you back around and be like, yeah, no, by the way, this is not a negotiation. Now, there is a difference between negotiating and collaborating. But you got to know the step to collaboration is to negotiate first. But if you have no, because the thing is, the collaboration in the end is going to benefit both the business and the people involved. So if it's only benefiting the business and it's not benefiting anyone else that's involved with it, then it wasn't even a negotiation either. That's the simple way of knowing whether or not you actually did a negotiation or not. But where it gets a little tricky is in the space of the moment, like where the conversation actually leads. And you're probably asking, okay, what do you mean by that? Well, if I'm going to give you an example. If I'm actually telling you that this job pays $25 an hour, right? And you're saying, no, what is your budget? I might play dumb and be like, what do you mean? Because I've already told you what it's gonna pay per hour. But you're saying, what is the budget? So are you trying to negotiate? Oh, so you think you're gonna, some people will do this too. Some people will try to finagle because they like to take my politeness as weakness, but I'm not stupid, okay? So what happens is they try to figure out what is actually happening, and they try to dream up a budget and then try to say, what is your budget? And it doesn't fit the expectation. And then they're left with, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'll have to get back with this one. Well, usually I beat them to that, and I would just say, think about it and then get back to me. Why? Because I already know where this is going before it goes. So that's not always the case. That is not always the case. But when you're not really negotiating, what you're doing is you're trying to figure out how you're going to get something out of something that there is nothing for. At the same time, I don't want to overexert. I don't want to pretend like I have something that I don't have. So when I say that it is something and this is how I'm going to pay it, I'm not going to sit there just so that someone can play hardball with me and make up some kind of a scenario. So what I do is I look at the now, and I look at the reality, and I'm thinking to myself, because, after you talk enough, like some folks, I've already spent maybe 10 hours plus talking, but the more that I talk, the less the activity I get. Now, you're probably wondering what that means. What that basically means to me is that I have to kill myself of wasted time and give it to somebody else that would actually care about that time and what it would cost for them to do it. Or let me be careful of that choice of words. That's not what I meant. What the cost of me it would be to do it, and that they would be okay with the pricing or with the payment that they get. The reality is SLMTA wants to pay its employees. That's the reality. There are agencies out there that will turn around and they'll do many things. This is not on a topic. I may be able to throw this in tomorrow afternoon, maybe, depending on what situation I am dealing with. But that I don't have interviews and auditions going on all day tomorrow again. But long story short, there are some agencies out there that will actually say, like, you're a 1099 employee. Well, first of all, you have to know what is a 1099 employee and what is not. Okay. And for some folks, they end up leaving the agency Because, well, one or two things. Either the agency cannot afford to pay them, so then they end up, the agency ends up just getting rid of them. But if that doesn't happen, it's because the person's waiting to get paid and the agency never did. So that, or it's commissions and they're realizing that they're wasting more time than they are getting compensated for. So they have to move on. If that is you, then maybe you need to rethink your guidance, your guidelines. And photographers, speaking of words of encouragement, for photographers, I want to offer you something good. There are professional photographers that are willing to work with you if you want to increase your know-how in the industry. You can also be part of a roster as a photographer, but never tell an agency that you don't know how to do something, even if you don't know how to do it. Like, we could talk about it if you want to do the training, good, but if you're trying to get around it, like you can't do it, and then you're expecting somebody to just give you something for nothing, come on now. It's no different than if I'm asking you to take my picture. Do you think you're gonna take my picture for free? Probably not. So what I want you to understand is that if you want to experience better results in your business as a photographer, hairstylist, or what have you, and when I say increase your authority in the business, so I'm not talking about the fact that you might be a makeup artist that is licensed, okay? I'm talking about you improving your actual business. It's more or less in that realm. That's where my consulting comes in, okay? If you want that, then you could be part of the roster. I'm actually developing plans where you could be part of the roster, get more exposure, work for print magazines or what have you that may be looking for people such as you and be booked. And in the process of that, I would be consulting you on how you express yourself. This is a win-win, because I figure if you want to be on the roster, that's the least I could do. But otherwise, it would be $250 an hour. That's the minimum that I charge for consulting. And and I'm actually stepping into becoming a licensed consultant, which is even going to be more. Okay. Understand that, I am Dr. Samuel Lombardo. I'm not just somebody that just poofed out in the air and came. No, I've spent years, both in education and in the experience of this industry. Okay, I'm not saying that some of you probably have not been in the industry, but I think that there's some folks out there that need to be respectful of individuals as well, because there are some that are not there. They're not actually being respectful of the individual. What do I mean? Basically, they're coming at me as if they actually think they know everything about the actual industry when it comes to, oh, well, no, I don't need a portfolio or whatever. Why do you keep asking me to get pictures done in order to get booked? All this funny business, right? So what I do is I don't even entertain it. And I just say, okay, when you provide me the information, let me know. I'll send a message every so often. It's up to you what you want to do with the message. You know what I mean? But I can only deal with people that are serious. So that leads me to this message. SL Models and Talent Agency are looking for serious inquiries only. If you are serious in your development, If you are serious as wanting to help SLMTA to develop a better roster of professional models and talent, then we are here for you. Now, that are two different agreements, okay? The development phases for the dreamers, the new phases. But I do hear on sometimes, not all the time, and you'll see in a little bit why I say that, because, well, Astraptasi is one example, okay? And Joel Martinez. I will keep using them as an example because they are there. Actually, they are a sample, not an example. They are a sample of SL models and talent agency. All right. And we will use them only because they are already featured. But there are others that are on the roster. I'm not going to sit there and explain all this. So not everybody is featured either. All right. But the thing is that there are some, very few, but there are some out there that are professionals who think that they are just too professional for their own will, and that they have everything up to par and all of this. And while that may actually be true, there are some things that, as more that I'm speaking, I can see where there's actual red flags, or where there's actual concerns or questions or things in that way. SL Models and Talent Agency does honest business, okay? We do honest business. And therefore, the people that we are working with must also, or should, be considered as honest. Am I expecting you to be like the top notch and all that? No, that's not what I'm trying to get at. But I do expect you to be, first of all, respectful to the agency, respectful to like to me as a person. I'm not saying that I'm authoritarian just because of being a doctor or whatever. And when I say doctor, I don't mean a hospital doctor. I'm talking about like in organizational leadership. Like I've earned that credential to be able to do that. It's not like, you know, where I'm just pulling the name off somewhere. All right. So the thing is that, well, at least at this point in time, that is not the case. So, and there are things there that I'm noticing, and there are some things that some people don't want to hear about what I'm noticing, and they think they have it all, and that's it. And then they expect to name the price tool, right? But then when I would name a price, now not everybody is like this. Like I said, it's very few. Not everybody is like that. There are some that will name their own price, and I'm trying to figure out where they even come up with it. Especially when there's actually, yeah, there's a market for that kind of thing right now, but the question is, just like everything else, markets go up and down, right? So you want to be able to, you want to be sure that you're not going to overexert what you think that offer is. And if there are other people buying into that same offer, at some point it actually gets old. So it may not even be worth it. I'll give you an example of what I mean. You buy a brand new car off the lot, it loses a lot of depreciation, right? But by the time you sell it, it's got miles and everything else on it. People have seen it, you've been driving it. Well, now you're going to sell it to somebody else. It's not going to be the same price, right? It would never be the same price. Well, that would be the same way. Unfortunately, works of art are not usually depreciated. okay, like cars. But what becomes appreciated is the fundamentals of it. Like, for example, if a singer is recording themselves for a virtual live versus a singer who may just have the recording and it was pre-recorded. Everybody can go out there and buy a CD. And it would be, and this is a thing that I understand, which is why if I were to do anything, they would know the importance of donating for our cause for the Community Stars program. Not because there's a festival that's going to happen with a bunch of pre-recorded shows. So, make a long story short, what would basically happen in that case is what is the actual real value in something that has already happened and that many people might have already seen. What followers now again, this is not everybody, because there are some that are up in the millions and I would not have this problem. Okay, because when they start saying, oh, by the way, like virtual event going on, blah blah blah, and they're like, hey, come if you want to see like whatever, I don't know, whatever their gambit is for advertising, what they would be doing or how they're going to show up. These kind of things, and that brings us to another topic as well, because we're going to be starting another YouTube channel community that is going to be focused on performances, live performances only. Okay. This is more or less entertainment news, industry news, financial news, SL models and talent agency news, and of course, me preaching to you about many different topics. That's what this channel is for. But we will be developing another channel so that you guys can see the actual live performances. And therefore, there's some that are going to be out there that actually have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 million people that follow them, that they actually have a following for that. So could there be like 600,000 people viewing that live pre-recorded show? Perhaps. Okay. But the thing is that that's what we would be looking for. We need people that are actually going to take this serious. We will pay for seriousness. We will not pay for something that's not serious. Does that make sense? When it comes to that. And then we will work with pro models and talent that are going to take their career serious rather than being scared. So if you're the, again, this goes, and we have separate contracts, so we're not going to sit there and try to own up to your life about what you're doing. But if you want to do, and another thing about SLMTA, wow, I got so much to tell you. Like, and even the more that I talk, there's still not enough time to explain everything. Another thing about SLMTA that I do need to actually bring into this segment right now is that we care for the livelihood of the models and the talent. If you're going to treat our models and talent like trash, then that's not even going to work. That's just not going to work. And you know what I mean when I say treat as like trash. What I'm talking about is the harassment, the abuse, all of that kind of stuff in the industry. If you want to go and sign your soul away, there are big places to do that. Be my guest. But SL Models and Talent Agency, I'm going to be just straight fluent with you. Okay, straight fluent with you on this one. We don't have room for garbage. So I know that there's a lot of folks out there that are afraid to even get involved with an agency or even to get involved in the performing arts just because of the fact being with all this other stuff happening. Now, some of you might actually, I hate to say it this way, but I'm going to go out in the women's side. Some folks might actually like it. Well, if you like it, that's one thing that maybe you can start your own ramification of what you want to do. Okay, but there are people that do not like it, quite a few. I interview them probably now. I don't really call it interview, but I call it interview because it wasn't part of the discussion. Okay, I would interview randomly many different artists, whether it's for a conversation to collaborate or if it was for something else. And this topic comes up a lot, a lot. There are conventions that are not magnifying at all what some of these agencies are signing models up to do with all the abuses. And when I say abuse, I've even heard horrible, nasty stories, if you want to talk about nasty. All right. And yes, I'm one that tells it like it is. And I'm going to tell you it's trash. It's garbage. And then you could put the other swear words in there for how you want to do it. But I'm going to keep this G rated. Okay. So SL Models and Talent Agency is not about that. In fact, we don't just red flag there. We actually have to report this. Have we ever had to do that before? No, but if it does happen, I'm just letting you know right now, it's not going to happen again. The industry is a perfect industry, but the problem is there's a lot of illegal scenarios that go on with it. Everything from licensing to drug abuse to sexual abuse to harassment to, and it does happen. So there's that side of it. But SL Models and Talent Agency encourages the talent to come to us so that we can work around those issues, because we do not sanctify those issues at all. We will not entertain it. We will not deal with it. And you need to be with a real, actual, honest, developing, honest developing agency. Okay. There are going to be a lot of different agencies that go to these conventions. Oh, Lord. There's a particular convention that I'm talking about where it's a nightmare. I wish I could even mention the name, but I'm not, only because I'm being extremely careful as it is already. But there is a particular one where they claim that everybody and anybody and everybody's God's name is there, and it's packed every year, but they're not actually there is no kind of what's the word I'm looking for? There is no kind of information. No, that's not even the word. I'm getting tired. The word that I'm looking for is I'm probably embarrassing myself right now. Like, They have no way to really know what the agency is about. And some of them will actually turn around and will lie out of their batushkas about what the agency is about. But then when you go and type up agency dash or comma in the Google bar and say complaints after it, you see a list of complaints left and right. So you have the models and the talent that would list the complaint. So you have the agency just lying out of everywhere, or you have like the companies lying out of everywhere. This is a big issue to figure out, to determine. These are the places where, when it gets reported, where a real actual audit happens. Because the only way that you're going, this is what they have. They have this thing called confidentiality. Confidentiality works on one way, okay? But it does not mean that you are on purpose allowed to break the law in the way that you think that you could by using confidentiality as something to intimidate or try to manipulate someone into contracting with you. So confidentiality means the information shared in the contract, like, you know, where you live and all that stuff. Okay. Social security numbers, ID, bank accounts, et cetera, et cetera. It does not include, oh, it's okay for me to act the way that I want to. I think that you're beautiful. You know, no, never mind. I'm not even going to go there. You know what I'm getting at. You know where I'm getting at. You know exactly where I'm getting at. And here's the thing. Sometimes it is true where relationships can be developed on a professional level. I understand that. Or that you are sharing responsibilities in your professional life. Well, I mean, that's going to kind of happen with me. It will. But the thing is that that piece of it could be confidential. It is when I am forcing my life agenda on the professional needs where it's not confidential. So even if you were working with someone that had a relationship with you, does not necessarily mean that that could be part of what the deal is. Or just because you're no longer a model, now you think you're going to break up, so now you're going to start harassing. You know, all these things, that's one level. Then there's the other level where there are people that are just flat out crazy, like delusionally crazy, trying to force people into contracts to do whatever. I don't know what's going on, like with kids. Really? I've never, I know what I'm talking about, but I'm trying to say certain things that, because this is anybody can subscribe and watch it. So I'm keeping it G-rated. That's why I'm speaking like I am. But I mean, come on. You have to be respectful, but I'm going to tell you, there's going to be a few of you out there that are like, oh, you're nuts, you're crazy, whatever. But I'm going to tell you, there's a majority of them out there that know exactly what I'm talking about. And when you hear somebody like a celebrity saying, I'm embarrassed to be anywhere near around that, they're not talking about embarrassed about an agency. They are embarrassed about the action of the person, perhaps within the agency. So you don't know what they may be actually embarrassed about when you hear that. So now, got another reality check coming, folks, just so that you are aware. It is okay to be embarrassed in the meaning of what I'm calling it right now. If you are that like celeb model or that celebrity singer, songwriter, whatever, and you have like this embarrassment about certain things and that you don't want to be seen in this way, but you want to be seen in that way. Okay, that is understandable, but be careful on what is, because what happens is you don't want to start sanctifying insecurity for your embarrassment. Does that make sense? So don't get delusional on the insecurity, but it is okay to be embarrassed. So let me give you an example. You could be embarrassed about something that you might have heard about a particular photographer, and they happen to be the one to do your photo shoot. So you're saying that he can do the photo shoot, but I don't want him to keep any of the photos. So I would have to assume that in good faith that that person will give us full 100% right, so that those photos would no longer exist with that photographer. Now, whether that is something that could happen, some will try to manipulate it. And let me tell you something, I'm not one to be manipulated and I'm not one to be intimidated. Okay, so it's those two things will not work. The door will be not just closed, it will be slammed closed. And the reason for that is because to be manipulated, what you're trying to do is you're trying to manipulate what a real issue is versus your insanity. I can't handle that. That's just drama. You can keep that for Hollywood when they need someone like that to actually act that piece out. But for me, I'm not interested in that. I'm basically telling you, here's the contract, what the contract is going to say, blah, 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 right? You may have questions, etc. So that is understandable. But I do not have time to be sitting there worrying about, and I shouldn't have to sit around and worry about what's going to happen between client and our roster. But if it does happen, somebody will be letting somebody know. And that also includes robbery, bribery, and things like that. Oh yeah, like we're big on that too. Because there are some people don't realize what some of these words mean, like embezzlement, bribery, fraud. You know, like for example, business fraud is when you're actually saying that you're doing things that you are supposed to be doing, but you do not have the right things in place to actually do it. For example, if you need a license to conduct business, wait till you get the license. Do not do it ahead of time. There are quite a few people where this actually falls in line. And the only thing that I could really stress out is I'm going to give this piece out for real, okay? Audits are coming. They are definitely coming. All right. By whom, I don't know. You would know if you were actually being audited. It's not going to be rocket science. But the thing is, and I'm not talking about tax auditing either. I'm talking about where, and the one thing that you want to do, you never want to actually be defensive, because what happens is if you're being defensive, then you threw your flag down before you even had a chance to be able to rectify what you're doing. So the only thing you could do is hurry up and fix the problem before the problem catches you. You know what I mean? That's the only choice that you would have if you end up doing that, but never, ever, ever do that. But at the same time, do not lie about it either. And there are some that I appreciate that they are transparent, which is why I'm actually able to just sit here right now and actually encourage you, to those whom that this may meet, to think about how you're doing business, to think about how you're conducting yourself, to think about how everything is working for you, and make the changes that are going to be positive. Because it's a real thing. Sometimes I will tell you that on average, is about 10 years. It could be longer, up to 20 years before a business actually even is caught, probably even doing an audit. Why? Because people are going to have all kinds of ways of getting around things. But I go right straight to the source, and that is, I go to regulated business. Is there a registration for, like, because the thing is that, and this is how dumb some businesses are, to be honest. I have to put that out there. I know I might be talking down because this is supposed to be words of encouragement, but this particular thing is actually stupid, okay? There will be some businesses out there that would actually say something as like, oh, I didn't know it was supposed to be like that, or this and that and the other thing, but they will spend weeks on weeks on weeks acting like they wouldn't need my coaching, and then turn around and act like that they were doing everything in 100% way. And then while that audit was going on, a lot of this stuff is public records too, by the way, especially when you do LLCs. All I got to do is just go into one of 3 sites, and I can research the LLC, and it will say like who is the owner, everything, what it's worth, who you are, everything. It does, because you sign the agreement in the publication for your LLC for that state to actually show that. Now, here's the thing. If you, for example, if you're doing an LLC in a state like California, and for 3 years you have not reported, say, tax information, but they're seeing from your resources that you're actually being booked, you're going to have a few problems. One is you're going to have IRS issues because they're going to need to audit you. But then they're also going to say, because in the state of California, you need to be licensed. It doesn't matter how it is. If you're booking in any way, you have to have a license. So even if I'm sitting here till I'm blue in the face to preach to you about that, it don't matter if you think that you're doing right, whatever, you're crazy, or I feel like I'm being audited or whatever. No, believe me, you will know when you're being audited, because they come down hard with real questions. I might give you some samples, but that ain't even half of it. And they're going to say, like, who is who? Where were you being booked? How much were you being booked? What is your income? Oh my God, they will drill you down to the nickel. I'm not kidding when I say this. And then you're going to be responsible for either A, how the taxes look in the end, and or B, business fraud, because you're conducting yourself as saying that you're doing one thing when in reality you didn't have the credentials to do it. Now, BBB, I try to stress this out with BBB. This is one thing that BBB really needs to get involved in, especially if they're going to, like, I talk with some representatives at BBB, and they say they don't really have any real thing for agencies. I said, well, the one thing that you really need is a auditor to figure out in the states, especially the states where there's needed a license. Let me explain why this license is important too, by the way. Because it's not about that cannot be the reason why I could work with you. I really care less. I'll pay the fees and that kind of thing. What it really boils down to, though, is the concept of the state looks at it as you actually lying. So if you're saying that you're a manager and you start an LLC and you start booking, see, management is a different scenario in the entertainment industry. It's way different. It's not the same as booking. Okay, it definitely is not. Booking is when you're actually seeking income for jobs from clients. So you're asking for money. They need to have a paper trail of where that money is going. Even if you have that, that's great, good. I would say keep one at least that in case if they question you about a license, and then you're able to do that. You know what I mean? But the real reason behind the license is to actually provide you the credentials of being a legitimate person or company to book. It's going to be the requirements. I'm going to tell you this right now. Do not apply for SVOG because it will set you up for an audit. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm only going to hint on it. If this is you, where you've never been licensed since 2019, do not apply for it, even if you thought that that was your chance that you could do it. And let me tell you why. It's a discouragement, but what's going to happen is they actually know that you have to provide the proofs of your licenses and things. They're going to be asking for anything that's relevant to that state. So that would even include your credentials of like LLC incorporation, your taxes, of course. Yeah, that's a big thing. That's one side of it. But then the other side of it is actually like, are you bonded? You know, some celebrity models actually know that they should be bonded, right? It's actually it's actually one of our clauses in the actual SLMTA pro model contract that you should be bonded. But if you are booking yourself or you have a quote unquote booker, that booker and or you would have to be responsible, or both of you would need to be bonded, and then would also have to be licensed in the state in order to achieve jobs. If you want to manage someone, perfect, that's fine. But the minute that you are asking for money or making exchanges and have accounts, and another thing is 9 times out of 10, you want to do exchanges to business account. So if you're doing business accounts to a LLC, and I research the LLC and I see that it's not licensed within this industry, then there's a problem. So your best bet is just to have it the way it was before that happened, because you could be, I'm telling you this more than ever, and this is actually a 20 to 25 year sentence in a state and solemn prison. It's a felony if you're caught with this scenario of business fraud. It's not a thing that I'm trying to intimidate or manipulate a situation. It's just what it is. It's the law. So you have to kind of pay what is Caesar's and then, go from there. Do not let Caesar catch you, because things don't go easy. You know what I'm talking about. So if you ever hear me say this, or even now, I'm saying it in the sense of my passion for the industry. There are a lot of agencies that are even this bad. And the problem is some of the clients are not even asking. I know that too. As of about a month ago, I really know it. People were telling me about people that were not actually licensed. And then they would never even be asked if they were. And then they would be asking, in other words, because I would be the first one asked, and they would say, well, why are you asking? You're the first one. Well, it must be that I'm the first one that has a head on his shoulders that's giving you the FYI before perhaps this thing actually turns into something more. Maybe this is just God putting me in that path to let you know what's up. That might be a possibility. All I'm saying is that if you have a chance to do it, it's like a tax auditor, right? The enrolled agent would rather you come to them and ask to help you with your taxes than you sitting there waiting for the IRS to determine if you're going to need to be audited. It's the truth. So what I'm doing is I'm just saving you the headache before the headache comes, is what I'm doing. In case if it were to come, because if it was to be a next time, it may not be as friendly as how I was, even though that I was being actually strict and honest. But they're going to, if it comes out of the horse's mouth, it may be in a courtroom. It may be with a sheriff. I don't know how the state runs. I just know that in fact, maybe I should research that a little bit more for those handful of states and tell you what happens if you're not licensed. So I could tell you a little bit about New Jersey. New Jersey, they will actually cease your LLC or corporation. They will do that. They will then audit you for tax purposes as well. And then they also will send you a subpoena. Based off of the subpoena, and depending on if you see, it's one thing if it was unintentional, where let's say I let you know about something, but even what information I give you, that might not necessarily be enough. So you need to get more information. So then you ask questions. So that will be one thing. It's a whole nother thing when they actually catch it. So even if it was unintentional, it may not be as bad, but they still had caught you. So what I'm trying to do for those, and a lot of these issues that I'm running into are either agents, not agencies, but like people working with freelancers, trying to get away out of the fact that they're not an agency. It doesn't matter. If you're an agent, then you also need to also have a proven resume. Now, if the only resume you have is so many years with a particular artist, you might be giving yourself away about never having a license. So you have to be very, 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 very careful how you answer some questions. Okay. It's real. It's very real. Now, for the states that don't need the license and that kind of thing, that is just pretty much, it's a normal thing. So what I usually try to tell those who are in, like, say, in Illinois, try to work with your brothers and sisters on the east or the west of you or the south of you. That way then, if the actual head company is where there is no license required, that would be one thing. But at this point, that might be a little bit easier for you to get out of anything right now. They may question what had happened in the past if they found out to do so. It really just depends, but usually after 5 to 7 years, it wouldn't matter anyway. So I'm just letting you know that you don't want to trick the system. The best way to trick it is to probably put it in a halt. For some of you, the pandemic might have actually done you very well. You probably could have just stopped, and then, well, for a lot of you, you already did by default. It didn't even matter, to be honest. So if you've stopped, it's just a matter of you just taking the money that you are making doing other side jobs to get yourself licensed. I'm going to tell you right now, some of the things that they ask is, what fees system do you charge? There are going to be things about, do you know the difference between a manager and an agent? It's going to pop up several times in that text. I'm just telling you some of the things. Why? Because they want to know where it is. They need to know what your industry knowledge really is. Okay, they're not trying to sit there and listen. Oh, well, I've done this, I've been to top that, I've been over here, I've been over there, I flew up there and everything else. They ain't worrying about that. They want to know for sure on line paper what you actually know. And as an arts administrator for the states I'm talking about, like I know a few right off the top of the head, is California, Washington, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, Florida. And there's a few other ones. I'm going to have to check that out. That's like half of them, or nearly. And they all have very, very rough sentences, like when it's reported back about people. Now, I don't do anything unless I am specifically asked to go and do something. And that's all I'm going to say about that because it's confidential. But that's when I do something about it. So no, I mean, I'm not going to sit there like, I'm not Samuel the Snitch or Snitchy. I was going to rhyme with a bad word. No, no swearing on here tonight. No. But in any case, like, I wouldn't be that type of person to do that. And I would still conduct business as usual. But I do bring some of these things up so that new people in the industry now understand that it is a requirement. Because some just start a business, but they're not really getting the coaching on the business side of it. Like I said, you may know everything about performing, how to negotiate. You might know those things, but when it actually comes to, do you need a license? How do I register a LLC? Did I actually register for the right thing, or am I going to be stuck with 2 forms? How do I complete my quarterly taxes? What tax do I have to pay? When do I pay them? How do I do a tax? All these crazy questions So all kind of crazy questions on your LLC form as well. And you're going to have, like, for example, I know this because it's the same way with Grand Rapids, like you're going to have city tax, you're going to have state tax, and you're going to have the federal tax. The federal tax is pretty standard. You just have to make sure you follow through. And you are going to be hiring employees of any sort. Here's where it gets tricky. This might help some of you that are doing that. So let's say that you have a team, and you may have someone that's your marketer, you may have the booker, and you might have all this, right? Great, awesome, right? But the problem is if two of you are actually doing the booking, and actually, even if the LLC is not considered an agency, for the purpose of business, it develops into an agency. You have to actually prove before you can get a license that you've actually had I think it's like 3 years. I know in New Jersey it's about 3 years experience of actually booking talent at minimum before they'll even look at your application. And your application cannot be a home address either. You actually have to have an office, even if you are just an agent. Because I've actually asked this, and that includes those out in New Jersey. See, here's the problem. I don't know what it is, but I have spoken to some artists in New Jersey, and they were like, but I'm doing this, I'm a freelancer. Okay, I get it. You're a freelancer, but that doesn't take you away from the law. That's going to freelance you into the jail cell if you don't actually do it right. What I always tell people, and this is, I'm giving you $1 million nugget right now. Hear me out, okay, for those of you. If you're a freelancer, singer, actor, what have you, you want to get with at least an agent that is connected to an agency, but is part of your team. You don't have to be part of an agency to be with your agent friend. The reason that I'm saying that is because this will help you in the long run so that you're not being forced to have to help him or her book you, because technically that's not even whether you're freelance or not, it's not an artist position. And when you're working in real estate, like if you're trying to get union jobs and things like that, some of these questions do pop up. So I know I'm not making a joke. In fact, I could pull a PDF up right now and actually tell you some of the questions if you're trying to join a union. So the best thing that I could give you as advice if you are wanting to freelance now, okay, is to work with an agent from an agency or someone that has worked with an agency before but is not obligated to an agency, with experience but is licensed if you're in one of those licensed states. Okay, it's a tricky situation because when you're not in a licensed state, half of this doesn't even matter. Okay, half of it doesn't even matter. So there is some good news in this. So I do encourage, I want everybody to continue to do what they're doing. I just don't like the trash, and I don't like dishonest business. I really don't. Okay, so I want you guys to understand how serious this is, and a freelancer should always have a very, very good team, and should, so you want to have that. If you don't have that, then that's probably where you want to be with an agency. But there are different types of agency agreements, okay? So no, they don't have to own your life just because you signed their agreement. There are some agencies out there that think that they own your life. Okay, believe me when I say. And even big agencies, I think it's going to come down to them realizing even some of this that I'm talking about, and there will be changes. There will be changes in how the corporation is working. So I'm not afraid. I'm not sitting here upset because I'm giving free nuggets out. No, what I'm actually doing is I'm trying to convince at least on the agency level, okay, if I could get that much. So on the agency level, I'm trying to get you guys to understand and to encourage you that things are changing and you guys are the ones that are going to have to adapt to the change. And if you can do that, I think we're going to be in a whole better situation. SL models and talent agency, we were at the brink of what it used to be before the pandemic. Now, after the pandemic, wow. I mean, just wow, everything is blowing up. And I think that the time of freelancing, it is kind of, strangely enough, it is coming back. But I believe that freelancing is being confused even with management and management and agent as well. Why am I saying that? Because there are some celebs. Yeah, I know I might be talking now. You can ask actual celebs if you actually know some, okay? And they're out there in Hollywood trying to book other, say, dreamers into the field that they're in, all right? I have to almost guarantee, because Hollywood's in California, that when you ask, are you licensed, unless it's how do I want to say that? Unless the state doesn't care about their own law, that is really not anything to do about how the person conducts business, but it's basically how your business is ran in the state. So I would have to say the state would then be stupid in that case if they can't figure out that these big numbers are actually formulating themselves as agents and not being licensed. But I'm not going to say that to be 100% true, which is why I would probably say, and the reason I would be asking you to talk with celebs that are doing this, where they're booking themselves or whatever, is because they will tell you what is involved in that. Okay, and there are different situations even with that, because they'll have a manager, like they'll be licensed to themselves to book them, but they'll have a manager either for accounts payable, or they'll be ending up having or they might end up having like some kind of email system to where they're not being bogged down with all kinds of messages with paparazzi and all that, but that it's being, these questions are being favored to the team rather than directly to the celeb. I would have to believe that most of them are actually licensed. So I'm not here to actually pretend that I know or don't know everything. I'm just letting you know that if everybody was doing their homework and actually doing the research and the development phases of it is a very huge requirement in some states. I'm going to share the exact full state list tomorrow so that you know exactly what I'm talking about and we don't have to like go in and run in the mill on that. Oh wow, it's 12 already. I've been on here for 2 hours. Okay. There's a lot that I have thrown at you, but I want to say that's why I started talking about the good stuff in the beginning, because toward the end, I did want to throw in here about licensing because it's a very important topic. And I have the passion, especially when some of you are actually meaning true business, okay? And you're being honest. You don't want to have something, this could become major if it ever was, and it could still be major. I think if the artist books him or herself, at this point, what you probably want to do is just license yourself and then just have like your team do all the managing work. Why? Because at this point, if you go and throw somebody else into it, they're going to answer wrong. I'm going to tell you that right now. They're going to be like, the only way I could prove, it depends. It depends on the situation. But if they come up and say, I had 5 years experience with this artist, that artist, blah, blah, blah. And then they are seeing in the records that there was no license during that time, but there's actually shown proof, because you also have to show your budget for the past 3 to 5 years. That's part of the requirement to sign up for the license as well. I know it was for New Jersey, like you actually had to have a bank account. You had to show that you had a bank account for escrowing, and you had to show that you had a bank account for like your budget for whether it's the business or the agent. Okay. And then you had to bond the agent and or the agency if it's an agency. I mean, technically the license is only $25, but by the time you get through everything, it could be around 2,000 or over, because you figure, well, I know a company in California that can actually bond any state in the artist. It's actually called Arts Administration Bond for like agents and or agencies. So, and I remember in New Jersey when I actually bonded that one, it was $175. So they're not that bad per se, but you also have to have liability insurance, other types of insurance as well. You have to show that. You have to show your resume. You have to show bank statements. You have to show proof of business and stuff. So by the time you're done showing all that, you're going to be showing how you broke the law in 5 years. So probably the best bet at this point, if this is an artist with a manager and that person was being your agent, it's probably the best bet that you become your own agent and they become your manager. It's the only, it would be a safe way to get around the same situation. Because otherwise, like I said, that person will be like, I mean, I don't know how all that will work, but assuming how the law is and what I saw in New Jersey, and New Jersey is funny sometimes, okay? I'm not saying that it's true of all the other states, but in New Jersey, for sure, needing a license or whatnot, when you give yourself away, it's like you're too good for your own good, right? And then you end up realizing, oh, well, so, and then it's too late to make that change. Because then they will be auditing you to figure out why is the change. And you'd have to defend yourself at that point. So I think the easiest ramification for all that is actually getting you to I think it's actually getting you to you actually being that, or you'd have to get with an agency, because at some point, if the agent gets caught and then you're not able to get another experienced agent with a license after this first scenario, then it's really going to be up to you by yourself. Now when it comes to agency, it's actually a little bit more expensive, because what happens is you would have to show who you have in the agency. The agency cannot just be an office. Okay. There are other insurances, I believe. Everybody has to have the experience of running an actual agency for a certain length of period. And if you don't have that, then the only thing that you could do is show your resume that you actually booked before. If you have done at least that, then you could maybe work with an agency that would then accept that license. Then you would be able to develop an agency. What you want to do is that's a long way around. Or you could just go and start a hub office like I did in Michigan. And then as you're developing in other states, a couple of years down the road, you can then provide that as your evidence of your resume. But you also, like with me, it's the same way with me too. When I put my resume in there, I need to make sure that there's actual references. It cannot just be made up. It cannot be, yeah, I've ran SLMTA for like 30 years or whatever. And that, I had this model, that model, and the other model, when for, 30 years, I might have never booked anybody. All I did was develop them. Because understand this, and this is the truth. This is where some of these training agencies come from. They will say that they have booked this, they have booked that, and the other thing. What I don't understand though, there are big agencies, like you can actually see there are agencies out there on their website where they are featuring their models saying, some might say something like, congratulations, so-and-so, that book, like blah, blah, blah. They might even have the picture of the model on a magazine print, you know what I mean? And it's actually showing proof. Agencies are good with that. They will do that. It's kind of like the little extra of what I call oomph of what the real portfolio is coming from the actual model, depending on if they're freelancing with the agency or whatever the case may be. Because freelancers could do two options. They don't have to always book themselves. They could also sign with different agencies. Depending on where you sit, when you become what I call indoctrinated, so to speak, you would be able to dictate your own. But until then, until you reach that superstar or established level, and when I'm talking about established, I'm talking about like, I don't have to sit to think about what your name is. I can go to France and your name will still pop up, all these different things, okay? Like you are established, all right? And it would be kind of like your own entity, so to speak. Then you can actually dictate yourself, and you would just, if you need help with an agency, it's more or less for probably management roles. That's what you would probably end up using an agency for at that point. So, but you have these training agencies, and you may have some other agencies out there. I don't know why, because some of them are actually perfectly good, to be honest. That's why I want to go. I want to partner with places like Ford and all that. That's what my real goal actually is. And I believe that it's getting very close to that. It's just because of the simple fact being that they are well respected and people know about those entities. They are the real national agencies. None of this nilly-willy or abracadabra, here I am today and gone tomorrow type agency. Or that you research the agency to find out that they have 15 other names. Oh yeah, you might have 35 years experience. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people, I can understand, life happens, right? So maybe you had to expunge a business by force or what have you. But I look past even that. I look at, like, there's 3 other names. And the 3 other names are not expunged because they were forced. They were administratively expunged. What does that mean? That means that probably you didn't meet the requirements of the incorporation, so you've lost the LLC or the S Corp or whatever. I mean, to me, it's just strange. So if you have 30 years of experience, then why is like 30 of those years spread out between 15 different types of registration? The first thing that does tell me that you're not reliable. You don't know that you can't even take care of your own things. Your own things are not actually taken care of. And I look at it straight from the business point of view all the way out. I don't even blame the model until the models are actually booked. I actually look at, like, the actual company of where they would be coming from. And the reason that I do is because it's important. Like, if I'm seeing 15 different names to a company, that is telling me that they're not reliable. That's what it's telling me. Like, you don't even know when your well, we'll use this. You don't even know when your annual report is due. And you need an annual report if you're running an LLC. And it doesn't matter if there's a single member or not. You also need to have some guidelines. It's part of the thing. So your first annual report is going to be your board numbers. It's going to tell you when that time comes, when you do your annual report, what you need to do. And it's usually given to the state. The state that you file with is the one that is going to issue that annual report. And that's going to be all the minutes and everything. Even if it's just you sitting in bed thinking about it because it's a single member thing, you still have to have that report or minutes and things. So you have to also show your budget, profit and loss. All these things have to happen in that report. These are responsibilities. You have to know how to do it too. You can't just guess at it and say, well, let me look it up online. And by the way, there are some things that you can look up online, and there's other things that will get you in trouble. And these are one of them. Annual reports, IRS audits, all those kind of things. When you're talking about LLC, you're talking about a whole nother ballgame when you're incorporated. It's not fake. It ain't pretend. You are now in a whole nother world. Okay, congratulations on that next step if anybody out there is starting their own LLCs or what have you. But every corporation type has to go with different types of responsibilities. So, and then there's even the partnered LLC, and there's the LLP, and there's all these other types of things as well. You got to understand how the Schedule C, you want to make sure that your expenses, if they're accrual, that you actually got paid at the time that you got paid, not put in there that, oh, I talked to them in May, so then I got paid something that you actually really didn't get paid. And you can't say that you paid for an expense that's not due until next year. Now, here's where it gets tricky. And this has happened with me, and I've already claimed it, so I don't know what's going to happen in the long run, to be honest. I know not that I can't call it again, because then they would be questioning me. But I did have a receipt where I was paying all this rent fees and everything for the DeVos place for an event that kept closing, like it's canceled again. So what's going to happen is I put in there that I've actually paid the expense, but the event still didn't happen. I believe that the reality of the IRS code is that if it didn't happen yet, it would be the same as the expense didn't get paid yet. So either way, it doesn't matter because the losses that I have are being rolled over to next year anyway, because they were just ridiculously high. So I wasn't gonna like stress that piece out anyway, but it's there. And if they question it, I have a receipt for it. But that's an example of what I mean by making sure that your receipts are the way that they are supposed to be. Now that's just simple house cleaning rules. Then it gets even better. You thought it was over? Oh no, it ain't over with yet. So then you have to figure out about 1099s versus W-2s. What are W-2s? Then you got to figure out the quarterly taxes. What you're going to do as a company, right? You would technically have to put in a quarterly report of the 1099s that you're utilizing. Or if it's only you, then it will be your report. But then your report, meaning your actual report of your personal getting paid, you're going to have to put a quarterly thing out for that as well, which I'm sure at least that you know already, okay, as an independent contractor. But for the business purpose, if the business is the thing that is going to be paying you in the long run, then you need to make sure that the business has a quarterly reports, like, 1099 NECs or 1099 miscellaneouses or something like that, that will actually help the federal government in that actually determine your tax liability as a company. Because when you're paying yourself, that becomes an expense. There is no tax liability. It's then you that is taxed in your personal. Okay, so that's what you need to understand about that. I'm okay with giving nuggets like this because to me it doesn't matter, because in the end of the day it's about, do you know how to even play with the number? See, that's where the real coaching comes in at. So I mean, that's like trying to say, well, how do I want to say this? Like, okay, you explain to me how to drive a car, right? I'm going to hold the wheel straight. The middle pedal is the brake, and right pedal is the gas. And I only want to press the gas when I want to go, right? And then you're saying, well, I don't need a license. I don't need any of that stuff. I know how to do that. So I know what a gas pedal is. I know how to hold the steering wheel straight. I know where the emergency brake is, right? Okay, yeah, sure. So then when you get behind the wheel, just because you feel like you're going to press the gas, so you're going to do it, but then you run into something. Or there might be some really interesting rule, like the school bus with the yellow lights and then they turn red. And you're like, well, everybody else has stopped. That means I could keep going. because I feel like I can go. They're stopped, I can go. As long as I'm on the steering wheel, right? Or am I supposed to stop? Well, I don't know. What do you think? You tell me. But if we were all as simple as that, I would probably say we would all be flunking the driver's test. So if we understand that we got to take a driver's test, then you know how important it is to make sure that even though that I might be coaching you for a minute about what an LLC is or whatever the case may be, does not mean that you have all the information there. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's when you have the papers in front of you and it's time for you to do certain things. Okay, you might have an LLC, but do you know after a year you can lose the LLC if you don't put in the right information for an EIN? And if you don't answer the EIN correctly, you can really be messing up the LLC by default, or you could be paying more taxes that you don't need to be paying. So if you don't actually have any 1099 employees, and that is including yourself at the moment, then you don't want to be doing any quarterly anything. But if you are, if you're planning to pay yourself, then yourself is still employment. So you're still going to have to report that on a quarterly basis. And then that gets reported on a quarterly 1099, like from your self-employment, you know, on regular taxes. At that point, then you're going to end up, you could end up owing taxes. The smart way of doing it, I'm not going to tell you. If you really want to have some consultation, I would tell you, but I'm not going to give all the nuggets up. That there's a way around all this stuff, at least while it happened, so you don't have to be involved in the situation where you're stuck with all kinds of things. But that's what I want to share with you anyway. I wanted it to encourage you. And an LLC is a very good thing if you're becoming a single member, or if you do not want to deal with double taxation. And there's some tax laws that do help you. Like most small businesses would start off as an LLC. Otherwise, if it's in a performing and fine arts area, you guys would be more or less starting off as either organizational, which is 501c6, or nonprofit, which is 501c3. And by the way, they're even different as well, because organization 501c6 does not completely mean nonprofit. So a lot of people actually think, oh, I could get away with the same things as the other things. Yes and no. So that's where we are at right now. That's all I'm going to tell you right now. If you need some help, or if you have any questions, yes, you can put them in the comment section down below and I'll answer them in the next video. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are growing yet again. We are at a nice subscription extravaganza going on again. I think we're about 1,400. I'm wondering if that's where we're at now. That's what it was before. Yeah, so I meant around 1,300 is what I meant to say. But that's what it would be. It's about 1,300. I think we're even going to be surpassing that. We do have a community page now. If you're interested in some really good stimulus news relating to stimulus and how to get it and all that, you can deal with, you can actually go and check out at LA Late. That is LA Late. He has some very good information. He's probably one of the big ones for helping you understand how to get it and etc. What I will do is when it comes to PPP and when it comes to like SVOG grants and all that, and you're wondering what type of paperwork and all that, I will consult you in that way. I am not going to spend time talking about what half of these YouTube channels are taught about because I don't entertain that. But in the financial news, I may throw in there about, hey, congratulations, they're doing certain things. So one thing that I will say as a joke, I'm only saying this facetiously, okay, and that is that I thought I saw a video out from somebody saying that Biden would want to pay $25,000 for you to go and buy a house. I'm going to tell you this right now, whether it's true or not. Unless you plan on getting a trailer on a plot of land or getting something that is very handy like made or whatever, I don't know how you want to explain it, just like messed up and needing a lot of work, you would be lucky how far $25,000 worth of down payment on a house would get. But then there could be this break of dawn of the apartment scenario. Because if everybody was to get $25,000 for buying a house, again, this is the clickbait. I don't really care about the clickbait, but there are people out there that are making up like weird titles about stuff and they don't even talk about it. But I just wanted to, I wanted to bring it up as a joke because somebody did, it was in one of the titles on YouTube, and I was like, if he were to do that, I'm going to actually crack up because you're talking about getting rid of debt. And then at the same time, you're saying, okay, I'll give you $25,000. So what you're basically doing, if this is real, is you're manipulating someone into a contract that eventually they may not even be able to pay anyway. So then we're right back to apartments. Okay, that looks good for the bank, right? But then there's more debt. And in the end, that is actually even worse for the housing crisis than what it looks like right now. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I thought it was a joke. I really did. Now, stimulus and stimulating the economy and forgiveness of debt and things like that. I think that's as far as it really needs to go, to be honest, because if you stimulate the economy and people are actually having an income and they know that it's coming, it's one thing. If they have to keep guessing that it is, it's just, and then it does not come, then, while it may look good right now, you have to understand the reason that it is looking good right now is because there's a lot of stimulus out there. There is a lot. And I'm not just talking about the checks. I'm talking about like when people are getting money to pay the rent and now they have money that they're freed up from that and they can actually spend that. That's happening too. But there are certain things that can now that can legitimately actually subside because I'm seeing the difference between stimulating, and there are some folks out there where I don't understand it. Like I don't know if it's just the state that I'm in or what it could be, but there are some states where they're just changing up rules constantly. Like they're pulling the goalposts all which way. I'm not a fan of that either. Like, I'm still waiting on replies on SBA. I'm not gonna lie. And I do work with them. I do speak with them. Recently I had mailed an actual 2019 because, believe it or not, I had to amend it. But the thing is that when I mail it, it takes a whole lot longer. And if there's something that is actually missing off of that, then it just becomes like a whole bunch of zeros. And I gotta wait for that reality to take place. So what I've been doing is, luckily I have copies of everything that the IRS would physically have in their hand, that I would be able to go and actually claim a reconsideration, and they could just have the tax forms right there. Hey, maybe it might speed up the process at the IRS, because if I do that with the thing, then eventually they're gonna have to say, well, either A, this is what you're gonna be expecting, or B, this was a total like fiasco lie. But I don't do it that way. I basically save all my stuff. I have mailed it. And what I'm basically doing is I'm basically going to, if I have to be reconsidered, I'm just going to share the same stuff that I mailed, because it only makes sense to do that. I'm just glad that I'm almost done the tax season for the business, because there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm just glad that I was able to do that. I recommend anyone that is doing an LLC to make sure that your physical year does not end at the same time when your tax season is. So do not have it at the same, do not have it end. You want to try to have it end after the second quarter if you can, which would be more or less like after the tax season, because most businesses would agree to the, so I mean, unless you have everything all at your fingertips and everything, even still, if they're looking for receipts and stuff, like, I wasn't audited, but the thing is that I had to audit myself to get everything right, because there were all kind of accounts everywhere. Like, when my silent partner was providing me money, it started in a personal account as a loan, and then I had to move it over to the other business accounts and all that. And then one account that was for my one business, somehow or another, ended up getting closed, so I immediately reopened it. So now it kind of looks like on PPP's end that I wasn't in business since 2020, but that's a sure lie, because my 2019 is actually going to prove that, as well as my articles of incorporation. So yeah, there's there's some things that I had to do, but now I'm actually hiring a bookkeeper, and I'm doing all kinds of different things that are necessary, so that this could then be at my fingertips, because that's why it took me forever. I mean, it's a whole lot of stuff, and I'm trying to apply for my business help to be able to like get employees all at the same time while doing the taxes. And I actually did pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. But it took way longer than it needed to. So yeah, if you hadn't subscribed to SL Models and Talent Agency LLC's YouTube channel, go ahead and do that. We have the community channel that is up now. We are also sharing other channels that are relevant to the business, so that's good as well. And then there's some stimulus topics that that I wanted to share. And like I said, the ones that I'm sharing with you are the ones that I think are actually the best on YouTube that have not actually did any kind of real actual clickbait. And when I say real actual clickbait, what I'm talking about is the subject line. And I think I'm going to talk about that come tomorrow when I go online again. I want to talk about how you want to have a real good topic so that way then, because clickbait is the same thing as a business that scams. That's really, to me, clickbait equals scam. Because what it's saying is, I'm interested. I'm going to click on there to listen to all this stuff while at the same time, I'm trying to figure out when that topic is showing up and it never shows up. So it's not something at all, and I don't know who's in charge of YouTube and all that to figure this stuff out. But I honestly think that there are just a lot of weird stuff going on. Oh yeah, there we go. It looks like, okay, I joined on February 2nd, 2021. And I have all these subscribers already for a modeling and talent agency that only started about a year ago. That is so awesome. I can't believe that. So now that's just one little milestone. The big milestone is actually becoming a member agency to the MAAI for our Dreamers division. Wow, that's awesome. See, there are things that you can do that you could put in as a milestone. The other milestone, Brandon Moody and the fashion design department. Wow, yes. Another milestone. I think I need to actually put a about us section and in the drop down put in milestone, because you guys need to actually know the milestones that SL Models and Talent Agency has done. Because there was a lot that happened. Ashraf Talsi is a milestone. When he actually gets here, it's going to be a big milestone. But there is stuff that happened and that is still happening while waiting. Another physical milestone that we are going to be doing is the platforms and the followers that we do have, because to be honest, as far as the business sector goes, I'm not talking about me being an artist or what have you, but with all the work that I do, like some of you say, oh my God, he's sitting here, he's still talking. I thought he ended already, you know, type of scenario. Well, I'm sorry. It's a Gemini in me, I think, and it's a wild night tonight. No, I'm kidding. It's only a Monday night. I'm ready for bed. No, I'm sorry. It's Tuesday morning, but I'm ready for bed. No, in all seriousness, folks, like our platforms, you got about 35 different things like Twitch, Discord, Teespring, excuse me, many different programs that we got going on at one time. And to see the growth that we have, I'm excited about it, and I hope to continue to see that growth continue on. Because I mean, I'm seeing things like I'm on. Well, let's see. I can't. Let me go over here. I don't know if it's gonna put them live or not. Let me see. So, like, unless I'm something like GMM Grammy official, then I don't really have 20.3 million subscribers. See, that's kind of how our performance YouTube is going to look like. I hadn't decided if I was going to move all these videos on over and then have this be it, or what was going to happen. But the idea is that I think we're going to do because it's going to show on Zoom. And then it's going to go and get picked up on YouTube. But it's going to be on YouTube TV because it's 3 full days of live in live. So some artists will have pre-recorded while other artists will actually be live. And then there are like newbies that I'm going to be adding in there. And what's going to happen is like you'll pay like, I think it's like $25 per day, or you can actually get all 3 days for $50. And then you can get a VIP package where you can communicate directly, on Zoom with those that are still available. But I do believe with some of the singers that we are going to have listed, there's probably going to be 20.3 million, maybe not subscriber, but 20.3 million people viewing at one time. I will say that because I can't tell the followers what to do, but I cannot just take something and act like they're not doing it. So I'm going to definitely be branding this festival. Now the festival, it was supposed to be over the summer. It's not because there's a lot of stuff going on. So the recap, we have the contest, we have the Miami photo shoots, we got Fashion Week that we're developing in Atlanta with our fashion designer Brandon Moody. We have another contest, virtual contest coming up. We have Community Stars that is going to be starting in August for our dreamers who are signing up for that. We have a lot of stuff going on that I just couldn't take over no more. So I kind of had it in the, and then there's these other options that you have, like if you like trivia, we're going to be doing live trivia games on YouTube starting as soon as next month. I think I mentioned that already. We actually have a platform that is very, very good. And we're going to do that. And it's going to be live trivia. Those who are participating would not have to pay. This is going to be seasonal trivia games. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do it because you don't, I'm not going to say everything all at once, but I will tell you this, it's not going to be that expensive. It's probably going to be about $15 a month, something like that. And you're going to get different, that's what we're doing on a virtual level. We hadn't even told you what we're planning on a face-to-face level. So, and I'm not going there. So, I am going to act in silence, and that will be what that will be. So yes, we are excited. I'm excited for everything. I just really cannot wait. We got a lot of press that's going to be coming up. Some of the singers, do not be afraid at all. There will be some of you that might be invited to do a press with me, but a lot of you are actually going to be in the press release when we start to brand the actual festival. Again, it's an online festival. It's people will still get to view it, and I don't want to get rid of online either. So I think even as we book live performances, that the live performances are going to include live broadband, live recorded shows, and then they will just continue to be exactly what something similar to like what this festival will be. So I think that's what it's going to turn out to be anyway, with a lot of the big artists out there, even after the pandemic. So yeah, I think it's time for me to go to bed, but I do want to encourage one more thing. There are some of you out there, you know who I'm talking about. I encourage you not to focus on the fact that you cannot do something, and actually realize the opportunities you could be missing even while you may be in lockdown. I'm talking about some of you guys out there internationally. Okay. If you're a fashion designer, SL models and talent agencies still could work with you. What am I talking about? I'm talking about being able to, the least I can do is brand your fashion to the stores and see that it's acceptable. What's the worst case scenario? Maybe not right now. Okay, well, if you can actually share with me videos of you walking in that style, I could talk to, I could be the Walmart in France, okay? It doesn't matter. I know the exact contacts to contact, even if I have to use translator to translate the whole entire stinking thing. I'll do whatever it takes. The idea is that you do not want to lose the opportunity. There are some of you that, like, France is in lockdown, Italy's in lockdown. Okay, that's good. Okay, now instead of sitting there like, oh, I can't do nothing, I have nothing and all this, I'm talking to you. You have more than what you think you have. Okay, you have way more than what you think you have. Utilize that and have somebody help you establish that stuff. This is your time to make something happen. It's not time for you to stop and then bug somebody else on how it's going to work. No, what you need to do is take your talent to another level. Like, there are some, I mentioned this, what was it, last year, I think, in April or May, I had a video where I was sitting over there. There was no backdrop or none. It was like, I should bring back some of them old videos. I had like a wishbone or something hanging behind me or whatever. And I'm sitting there talking to you guys, literally, and I remember this. I said, where is the singer? Come on, show your talent, what's going on? And all of a sudden, everybody's coming up with pre-recorded this, pre-recorded that, and everything else. And then that's where I said, okay, I have enough information. Now let me see how SLMTA can actually expose that. And that's where the festival is coming in. So, you know, I'm not too worried about not having nothing, because something is coming. Okay, you just have to know how to get past the breakthrough. That's what I'm basically telling you, and that's what I want. That's how I want to wrap this up. Okay, that's my words of encouragement for you tonight. So don't stop at nothing. Keep going. If you have nothing, then you don't want to stop at nothing. What you want to do is bring something to the table and make it happen. And that's where I'm at tonight. I hope, I'm sorry if I've kept some of you up late as I was sitting here like preaching to the choir here. And I thank you for all of you that was watching and those that will be watching. Those that will be watching does seem to be more relevant than those who are watching. I don't really expect much to happen at 1 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, it's all good. I thank you very much, though. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comment section down below, and I'll be very glad to answer you. All right, in the next video. Till then, have a blessed evening, or a blessed night, should I say. And sleep tight. Indeed, indeed, be safe.